Today's November 13th, and in Virginia athletics history from here forward, this will be a somber anniversary. Chris Graham, Augusta Free Press. A year ago today, three UVA football student athletes, Devin Chandler, Lavel Davis Jr., Deshaun Perry, were shot and killed in a mass shooting that also wounded two people, including another UVA football player, Mike Hollins, who came back and rejoined the team in the spring and has played this fall, leads the team, tied for the team lead in touchdowns with 7. Um, and it's this day is a tough day. Obviously, the program opened up Scott Stadium today. I'm recording this close to 5 o'clock. The program opened up Scott Stadium for people to pay tribute as they wished from noon to 5 p.m. There's a nice memorial on the Legends Walk on the north end of the stadium, where people were encouraged, if they were so choosing, to bring flowers and cards and that kind of thing. And so this is a day that I'm sure for from here going forward will be treated that way. And so it's been a tough season for the UVA football program on the field, 2-8 record. It's been much tougher off the field, obviously. So thought we'd certainly get into that and mention that. Other UVA football news, then, changing gears big time and talking about on the field stuff, and actually not even related specifically to UVA, but former coach and former player Marques Hagans moved to Penn State in the offseason. Wide receivers coach at UVA under 3 different head coaches. You don't see that very often, where a guy hangs around through that many coaching changes. Hagans was a grad assistant, then an assistant on the staff of Mike London. He hung around and stayed through the entirety of the Bronco Mendenhall era, and then through year 1 then of the Tony Elliott era. The wide receivers job opened up at Penn State in the offseason, and Hagans, surprisingly, in some people's minds, and at first for me too, and then after I thought about it, not, but he took the job. And I looked at it at the time for Hagans. He's a guy that I don't know well, but we had the chance, we being Jerry Ratcliffe and I, when I was co-hosting the Jerry Ratcliffe show with the dean of UVA sports writers, Jerry Ratcliffe, got the opportunity on a Sunday night, I recall, before the 2021 season to sit down, talk by Zoom with Hagans for over an hour. And I left that thinking, this guy's a head coach at some point and not too far off in the distant future. And, obviously it's the kind of thing where you have to advance. I mean, there are situations where guys are position coaches and elevate to the head coach job straight that way. It usually, though, ends up being like Dabo Swinney at Clemson, where he was the wide receivers coach at Clemson when Tommy Bowden resigned mid-season and was elevated to that head coaching job as an interim. Had a decent end of the season. They decided to keep him on, and he won a couple of national championships. That's usually the way a position coach becomes a head coach at the Power 5 level is usually through interim tags that just work out. So you kind of know that Hagans, if he's going to become a head coach, which I think is it's an inevitability for him. I think he's going to have to advance, and he likely wasn't going to just do it at Virginia. He wouldn't. I don't know that you go from wide receiver coach at a school to even offensive coordinator at that school, unless you're going to be the head coach at that school. You're not going to get a job somewhere else. With knowledge of one school and thus probably just one recruiting area. It's great to spread your wings and fly. It goes to Penn State, a top level Power 5 program. And this was a great opportunity, it would seem. Now you have to wonder. Penn State lost on Saturday to Michigan 24-15. The offense stagnated, second time in their 2 losses to Ohio State and then Michigan, where the offense was the problem. And after that, James Franklin decided to fire his offensive coordinator, Mike Yurcich. And Mike Yurcich was already his 5th offensive coordinator in his 10 years at Penn State. And so now he's got 2 guys in the interim position, and Hagans was not among that group elevated to that role. So this is a guy that Hagans is the 5th wide receivers coach that Franklin's had in 10 years. He fired the guy that was his coach last year, Taylor Stubblefield, citing a need for a little bit of a change because he thought the wide receivers needed some work. The last year, Penn State threw the air, put up 252.5 yards per game. This year, they're only averaging 206.1 per game. And I scan things a lot when I'm reading about these kind of things to write about. What I get is a sense from the people who cover Penn State regularly that they feel like that the wide receivers there at Penn State have been having issues running routes, getting open, that kind of thing. And whether it's fair or not, that ends up being a reflection of their coach. So I hope for his sake that this move, which was clearly intended to, hey, let's get out there. It's an elevation, even just going from UVA to Penn State, but it's also a chance to build a resume and work towards what, again, I think is an inevitability for Marques Hagans, that he becomes a head Power 5 coach sooner rather than later. Hope it doesn't work out in the wrong direction and lead to something bad happening there for him. So we'll keep an eye on that. Penn State's interesting, man. They go 10-2. It seems like every regular season. They just can't quite get over the hump. So it's one of those things too where James Franklin isn't going anywhere. He's got a $64 million buyout. We just saw the news with Jimbo Fisher, former Florida State coach, being let go yesterday by Texas A&M. $76 million buyout. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to figure where these schools get this kind of money. I mean, Virginia, with Tony Yelly being 5-15 towards the end of year two. Certainly, a lot of fans wondering if Virginia's in the market for a new coach after this season. I don't see it for lots of reasons. One of them being money, and when you owe a coach, if he's under contract for 4 more years, $4 million plus per season, that's $16 million. Virginia's not going to pony up $16 million. You got to pay that out, and then you've also then got to hire a new coach. Texas A&M's paying a guy in Jimbo Fisher $7 million a year the next, I think it's 8 years, 7 or 8 years, and then they're paying another coach. I don't see you doing it, but in any case, Franklin's not going anywhere, so he's going to continue to tweak his offense, and hope his tweaks don't include getting rid of Marques Hagans. That'd be a shame. Switching gears from in terms of sports, from football to basketball. Preview of UVA basketball's home game with North Carolina A&T tomorrow night, Tuesday night. A&T now, let's get this important fact in there. The home to the largest HBCU in the United States, founded in 1891. So historic university there down in Greensboro. The basketball program not doing so well. The Aggies have a first-year coach, Monty Ross. They're projected to finish last in the CAA, 14-team CAA. They've already lost a couple games this year. They got blown out by Pitt at Pitt in the opener last Monday, 100-52. Lost to crosstown rival UNC Greensboro 94-78 on Friday. Now, Monty Ross replaced Philip Shumpert, who was the interim coach all last season. He replaced the guy before him who'd gotten fired. A&T went 13-19 last year, decided to go with someone completely fresh. And Ross has brought in all new guys, pretty much 6 of the 8 rotation guys that he played in each of his first 2 games. First-year players at A&T. The 2 returnees were bench guys last year. Jeremy Robinson now starts for A&T, the 6'6 senior. He averaged 4 points a game last year. And then there's Kyle Duke, a 6'4 junior, who averaged 9.8 minutes a game last year. He's still getting minutes off the bench this year. The backcourt came from Coffeyville Community College, both guys. Landon Glasper, the shooting guard, a 6'2 guy, and Kamion Shell, 5'10 sophomore point guard. Glasper is either feast or famine. He had 32 points in the loss at Greensboro on Friday, 12 of 25 from the field, 5 of 11 from 3. So that's the feast. And then the famine, 1 for 16 from the floor, 0 of 12 from 3 in the loss at Pitt. Oof. One of my comment in the story I wrote about this was, even when the shots aren't falling, kids got confidence, so he'll still jack it. Other starters are an East Tennessee State transfer, 6'8 sophomore Evan Joyner, and I'm going to try to pronounce his name, and I knew I was going to get in trouble here. Nikolaos Chitikoudis boy, that is not good for me. I usually can hear like Antetokounmpo, and after a while, I'll say it decently right. 6'9" freshman from Greece. That's why I mentioned Antetokounmpo. Uh, uh, don't expect A&T to put up that much of a fight. KenPom.com has Virginia a 99.7% favorite for what that's worth, right? 84-55 projected final score in this one. The one thing to watch will be the battle for tempo. This A&T team likes to push the pace, averaging through 2 games this year, 72.9 possessions per game. Virginia's averaging 65, which is actually up 3.5 per game. It's only 2 games, but 3.5 per game from last year. But 65, don't worry, Virginia fans. I'm being facetious. That figure still ranks in the bottom 10 nationally. It's not like Tony's speeding things up. It's just that the game itself is apparently speeding up some more. So that game is tomorrow night at 7:00. NJPJ game will be on ACC Network X, which means it's online. So if you have an ACC Network subscription, you'll be able to access it. So you can still watch on your big screen, watch on your small screen if you want to. We'll be live blogging on Facebook during the game. So if you want to join in, please feel free to do so. I'll just be kind of sharing my thoughts, observations, et cetera, et cetera. And, getting back to football, this is Monday as we're recording this. On Tuesday, Tony Elliott, the football coach, will be meeting with reporters. We'll have some coverage from that on Tuesday and then throughout the week about the upcoming game with Duke, which is set for 3 o'clock in Charlottesville on Saturday. Plenty of good tickets still available if you want to go. I'm not recommending it necessarily, but if you want to go, you can find a ticket pretty cheap. And the game is on the CW otherwise, and we'll be live blogging through that in addition. So we'll have some fun with that. So rest of the week in UVA Athletics, then I've kind of laid it out for you. We'll have the post game, and then there's actually a basketball game on Thursday in addition. So we'll have kind of a quick turnaround. So we got basketball on Tuesday, we got basketball on Thursday, got football on Saturday. The women's team will be in action this week. We'll keep up with that. The women's field hockey is in the Final Four facing North Carolina. I think that's on Friday. Men's soccer just got notice that they have been given a bid in the NCAA tournament as a 7 seed, and there's a game. I think that's on Friday as well. I should have looked this stuff up, but memory tells me from having seen the note about that today. That's on Friday. A second round matchup, so we don't know exactly who yet. Boy, there's a lot going on there. So if you have any questions, any comments, any mailbag items for me to maybe address, please email me at chris@augustafreepress.com.